reefs are some of the most biodiverse ecosystems on the planet. Home to thousands of creatures that rely on them for survival, they include over 800 species of animals that are an integral part of our oceans, cultures, and natural heritage. Today, corals are under threat from global climate change, unsustainable fishing, and land-based pollution. In just the past few decades, we've seen the death of about half of the world's reefs. In face of this, it's important to protect and conserve these valuable ecosystems for future generations. This was the focus of Dr. Ruth Gates, a leading marine biologist who dedicated her work to saving these homes and to training the next generation of reef scientists. Ignoring early detractors who discouraged her from pursuing science, Gates' early work out of college showed that coral bleaching occurred at higher rates in warmer waters, a newfound discovery for the time. She went on to graduate school, where she began to study the molecular mechanisms behind the phenomena she had been observing. In 2003, Gates started her own lab at the University of Hawaii. Her studies on the genetic diversity of coral algae were considered groundbreaking and propelled her as a leader in the field. The idea she is best known for is pushing fast forward on evolution to create so-called supercorals. Work on this involves selective breeding, improving heritability, and encouraging the uptake of heat-resistant algae. Through combining these, the hope is that we'll be able to stave off some of the impacts that humans have been having on the Earth. As Gates says, while reducing this impact is the overarching goal, we'll need to conserve corals for them to survive to the point when we get there.
I'm really fascinated by the interaction of humans and the organism that is the planet. Why are we continuing to behave in ways that we know are detrimental to the planet? And it's so interesting because this theme of being fascinated by how one thing speaks to another and either serves or damages another has kind of been consistent from the microscopic studies that I did early in my career to now this sort of macroscopic view of what's going on the planet.
Described as relentless in both her optimism and her academic work, Gates went on to direct the Hawai'i Institute of Marine Biology, become a member of the United States National Academy of Sciences, and the president of the International Society for Reef Studies, among many other roles. She received numerous awards for her work, including the prestigious Pew Fellowship in Marine Conservation and the Paul G. Allen Ocean Challenge Prize. Her work is important not only for corals, but for all of the diverse and vibrant organisms that rely on them as well.
You know, it's not uncommon to be on a reef and just to be awed by the colors and the fish and the enormous number of other organisms that you find there. And why do you find them there? Because the corals themselves construct such complex skeletons that they create thousands of spaces for other organisms to live in.
Gates was also a passionate advocate for the protection of marine ecosystems and worked to educate the public about the importance of coral reefs. She spoke for the United Nations as part of the Aspen Ideas Festival, in the Emmy Award-winning documentary Chasing Coral, and in many public lectures. Part of her cited motivation is her own experience as a queer woman in STEM. Her students, many of whom identify as women or as part of the LGBTQ community, share that her mentorship helped them grow into their scientific identities and authentic selves. In face of the discrimination and general life challenges she faced, Gates held the attitude that while we can't control what happens around us, we can choose our own responses and actions. With this philosophy, she was a light in a field that can otherwise begin to look quite bleak. Ruth Gates passed away in 2018, 5 months after being diagnosed with brain cancer. She is survived by her wife Robin, her brother Tim, and a team that continues her work. In a memoriam, The Atlantic described her as a living embodiment of the world she studied, a reef in human form. Just as reefs support rich, thriving ecosystems, Gates nurtured communities of students and scientists and fostered cooperation and collaboration. If I were to create an organization in honor of Dr. Gates, I would have it continue much of the work that she herself did. The Ruth Gates Foundation, like Bill Gates 2.0, would fund conservation research and create programs to promote education about the impacts of climate change on marine life, particularly in areas that are most vulnerable to it. In her spirit, it's going to take a lot of collaboration between a whole lot of people to fight the problems we're facing. but in continuing on her legacy, there's hope that we can do it. This video was produced as part of the first year seminars program at Johns Hopkins University for a course examining queer visibility in STEM. Thank you for watching.